are live on the On3 Recruits channel for a big commitment. Let you guys roll in here. We are all getting ready. We're getting set. We got number one quarterback Jared Curtis coming off the board. He's going to make his announcement live at about 5:30 Eastern. We have a camera. We have Steve Wiltfong on the ground down at Nashville Christian. You see the set right there. Jared Curtis waiting in the background. Do we know where he's going? You guys in the chat, let me know. Where is Jared Curtis going to college? Let us know. Is it going to be Georgia? Is it going to be Oregon? We're going to find out. We're going to find out in about 15 minutes. That's exactly the time it's supposed to start. Now, we're going to break this down for you guys because it's been an epic battle to get here. The one-time Georgia commitment. Yeah, hey, if you're just tuning into recruiting in the offseason, you got to remember, Jared Curtis was previously committed to Georgia. It was a short commitment. He reopened his recruitment. I think he had a top 6. He went and took all these visits. He narrowed it back down to 2. And here we are. Georgia versus Oregon. Kirby versus Dan. Mike Bobo versus Will Stein. Who's going to win out for the number one quarterback in the country? You see it there. He's the number one quarterback. He's the number 6 overall player in the On3 industry rankings. Now, On3's Charles Power has Jared Curtis at number 3 overall, but we're just splitting hairs here. Everybody has Curtis as the number 1 overall quarterback. You can see why. 6'4", 225 pounds. Whew, we're going to find out where he's going. Now, Jared Curtis did name Oregon his leader at one point coming off that decommitment. Of course, that was a while ago. He hasn't really reiterated who his leader is, but we're going to find out where he's going in about 15 minutes. We got a host of characters on this show. We got the great Justin Hopkins from Scoop Duck. We got Rusty Mansell from Dawgs HQ. Steve Wiltfong down on the ground at Nashville Christian. We'll go to him here in a minute. And we also have Pete Nakos. He's going to join me at the desk in a couple minutes. But first, I want to kind of break this down equally. So let's talk about Oregon. Let's make a case for Oregon Ducks landing Jared Curtis. Let's bring on Justin Hopkins from Scoop Ducks. Justin, you've covered this thing inside and out from the Oregon angle. There's been ups, there's been downs, but how did we get here? Why is Oregon a finalist?
Yeah, I just think you look at what Oregon's been able to do at the quarterback position under Dan Lanning, the success with Will Stein, and just, the offense in general. Oregon's been a school that's always seemed to just kind of be that diamond, almost the dream school, if you will, for Jared Curtis. And I know that, distance is a factor, remains a factor. It's probably the biggest factor in this recruitment. But every time he goes to Oregon, he just raves about the coaching staff, the players, the environment, the city, every time. And it's just, I think if we're honest, I think there are a few times where the Oregon staff felt like a commitment could have been coming from Curtis, and it got delayed and it got pushed back, and he's taken more visits. But, as we've known now, it's been Oregon and Georgia for the past few months. And, it's an interesting battle, of course, because of the ties between the two programs and Dan Lanning there. But yeah, Oregon's there. They've been on him tough. They love him. They think this is a guy that's going to come in ready-made to, lead a team, whether it's Oregon or Georgia, right away, and be quote unquote a franchise quarterback. Mm-hmm. So I think that's why you've seen Oregon prioritize him, and why Georgia's clearly prioritized him as well.
Now, Curtis has taken several visits out to Eugene. How many has he taken this offseason?
If I recall correctly, he's been out 3 times this off season. The most recent was in March. Yeah, the most recent coming in March, which obviously he visited Oregon, then Georgia, and then has been pondering this decision. So, yeah, I mean, he's made a lot of trips out there. He's very well aware of the distance at this point in his recruitment. So it'll be interesting to see if that is the ultimate factor or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this has been crazy. I mean, there was a time where Oregon, right? Jared Curtis came out and verbally said, Oregon's my leader.
Yeah, there was no question. And I do appreciate that in this new NIL era, we're hearing that more and more. Kids are honest and upfront about like, hey, this is the school to be right now. I like these guys a lot. And there was a ton of optimism within Oregon. Of course, Oregon had 4-star quarterback Jonas Williams committed at one time.
Right.
And he's now committed to USC. And I think, the involvement with Oregon and Curtis naming Oregon as leader at that point in time was a big factor in why he went to USC. So, if you're Oregon, you're really hoping that, maybe hearing that didn't cost you Jonas Williams along the way. And you can ultimately end up with this commitment.
Yeah. And, at the time when Jonas Williams flipped to USC, Oregon fans were in my mentions pretty confident. I mean, they were saying, hey, this isn't a flip. You just got to be patient because Jared Curtis is coming. So there's Oregon fans that have felt for a while now that, maybe Jonas Williams was maybe even, let go. I don't want to say pushed out because I know Oregon would have signed both had they have the option. But I don't think this is as much of a slam dunk as maybe Oregon fans thought 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, I've covered recruiting a long time. That we worked together a long time. And, the one thing that I know from recruitments like this and others is that when you're talking to a kid that's basically 2,500 miles away from where your school is located, distance isn't an issue until it's an issue, right? I've seen a lot of recruitments, leaning heavily to Oregon. And then when it push comes to shove and, you got mom and dad and aunt and grandma and grandpa saying, you're going to be so far away. I get it. I wouldn't want my kids that far away. So I understand, but it remains, a hurdle that Oregon can't overcome because you clearly can't move Oregon next to Nashville.
Yeah. So we're going to see what happens, but I do like the fact that, Jared Curtis has made it out there. Those unofficial visits, those are on your own dime as a recruit. So yes, he has an official, but he's made it out there quite a bit on his own dime. So we know Oregon's in there. All right, J-Hop, hang out with us. We're going to, hopefully we go live with Jared Curtis in about 10 minutes. We'll see how this thing goes, but appreciate the insight. Hang on. All right. So let's take a live look again at the setup. We're going to see, maybe we can see some hats on the table. Can we? No hats on the table yet. Not that I can see. Sometimes you can kind of tell if it's a new Georgia hat, if it's an old Georgia hat, sometimes that's a dead giveaway, but we'll see. The scene is set. This is at his high school gym. It's going to get crazy. It's going to get loud. I believe he's going to sit down in the middle. I think we're going to see a coach or a AD speak first. Then I'm not sure how this is going to go. Like, I don't know if, see that video screen in the back? I've been told Jared Curtis is committing via video. So I'm not sure if he's going to verbally say where he's going or if the video screen behind him is going to indicate where he's going. But either way, our man Caden got both in the shot. That's what a great producer does. He makes sure to get both in the shot just in case. So we don't know which ways it's going to happen. But we know that we will have a live stream of Jared Curtis at the table making his commitment, whether it's a hat, whether it's a video. I don't know if he's going to jump up and down and say the school that he's going to, but you're going to be able to watch it right here live, and we are going to bring in a cast of characters. Speaking of cast of characters, let's go to Rusty Mansell, Dawgs HQ. Rusty, how did the Dawgs get here? You heard how Oregon got here, but how did Georgia get here?
They've been in it for the long haul here. You start talking about Georgia and how long they have recruited Jared Curtis. You look at Mike Bobo. They offered him in January of 2023. He was camping early. He camped in June of 2022. They had him on campus right at the end of his freshman year. This has been one of those going on now for almost 3.5 years that Georgia has been in on Jared Curtis. This is a guy you mentioned earlier they had committed at one point in March of 2024. He decommits in October, about 6 months later. It says he wants to open things up. And I said then, I think everybody in the Georgia fan base kind of panicked, like you're not going to get this guy. But I knew someone close to this, and they kept telling me the whole time, look, Georgia's in this thing. He just wanted to take visits. He did not want to take visits as a verbal committee where, opened this thing up. A lot of schools, I saw Alabama was in home in January. Ohio State was in home in January. Oregon, Georgia, Alabama. Everybody came in January, but ultimately it got down to these two schools today, Georgia and Oregon.
Yeah. And, Rusty, you and I, Hopkins included, we've been covering recruiting for about 20 years. And I'd say in the NIL era, it's been more common for a guy to commit and maybe decommit, but still end up at the same school. Now, 10, 15, 20 years ago, if a quarterback commits to the school and decommits, that coaching staff probably takes his name off the recruiting board. But in this case, was there any ill will when Jared Curtis reopened his recruitment?
No, I don't think it, because of the way it was handled behind the scenes. His family was very clear with Mike Bobo and Kirby Smart. You know, there was a lot of phone calls. There wasn't one of those just afternoon calls like, hey, we're decommitting. This was something, was conversations that took place, from what I gathered, about over a week time. And Georgia basically told them right then, look, we're not letting up here. You can go take some visits. You can do what you want. We're not letting up. You're a guy that we covet. This is a guy that we've targeted for a long time. And, you know, if Georgia gets him here in a few minutes, I'm telling you, the way the things went down in October were going to be a key factor in this and how it was handled. Georgia never let up. Mike Bobo never let up an ounce on this kid. This was a guy that, you know, they penciled in early and have been on him for a while.
It's been a while. Jared Curtis, what's his relationship like with Mike Bobo? Because, you know, Will Stein getting there recently, it goes a little deeper with Bobo, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's known him for a while. And this is one thing that just knowing Mike Bobo and some of the recruitments he's been involved with, you know, he's won some big time battles, man. Look at Malcolm, who back in the 2011 Dream Team. That was ironically, that was Mike Bobo versus Kirby Smart, and Mike Bobo wins that one. That was an all out war for several months. And you look at Nick Chubb, you go to a guy that's close to me here in my hometown, and that was one that Mike Bobo came in at the end and kind of tipped that thing. He got involved. So Mike Bobo is no stranger to being in these big time recruiting battles. He's won a lot of recruiting battles like that. But the one thing I said early on a podcast today is when Mike Bobo gets locked in on a recruit and he's one-on-one with that guy and a family, he's won a lot of those battles. And this is one of those ones where he has not let up an ounce. I keep saying that, but you know, that's kind of the word I've been giving around people around Jared Curtis. Like, Mike Bobo never gave up here. They did recruit other guys, and they are recruiting other guys. I think that's key to mention this, but I do think it's clear. Once Georgia said Jared Curtis is our guy, if you remember, Juju Lewis was in this class at one time. When Georgia offered him first in January of 2023, if you remember, Julian Lewis, who was an in-state kid, he was in the class, he was in the state. It just seemed to me at that point, all directions for Georgia, they were all in on Jared Curtis.
And, you know, there are other quarterbacks on the board, because I remember when Jared Curtis was leaning Oregon, and like Hopkins just said, there was a moment where he stepped on campus where we all thought, hey, maybe by the end of this weekend, Jared Curtis will be a Duck. How many offers did Georgia put out? How many quarterbacks are on the board that UJ is actively recruiting right now?
Well, I know this. The ones that like Mike Bobo went and saw. That's the ones that we kind of know. You know, they even went and saw Dia Bell a couple times in January. You know, Bo Bentley's a name that gets brought up a lot. So obviously, you know, there's a lot of people and there's a lot of quarterbacks there, and you can't just recruit one. And you look at these guys. Landon Duckworth's a kid out of Mississippi that Georgia went and saw him in January. But I think the name mentioned mostly around this is Bo Bentley, the kid out of Texas. He's been to Georgia. He's been to Georgia's campus. Georgia went out and saw him in Texas. So, you know, you can't just recruit one. You can't put all your eggs in one basket. But once you get one of these guys, the dominoes start to fall. And you look at Faison Brandon, kid is committed there in Tennessee. But you look at the guys left uncommitted. I think once Jared Curtis comes off the board, you're going to see some dominoes fall. And I think that's going to happen within the next 4 to 6 weeks.
I think so too. I think some of those quarterbacks that we all saw uncommitted there on that list are going to start coming off the board in a hurry. I think, you know, by midsummer, I think all those top 10 quarterbacks could be off the board, and it starts today with the commitment of Jared Curtis. All right, Rusty, we're going to hold you in the back for a minute. We'll get this thing going. Let's bring up the top 10. The top 10 rankings are going to be pretty interesting, because today's recruitment or today's commitment will absolutely impact this top 10 one way or another. Either Oregon moves up. I believe they're going to move up to number 4 if they land Jared Curtis, or if he ends up at Georgia. We don't even see Georgia in here. Georgia is going to surge into this top 10. Without a doubt, we're going to see Georgia in the top 10. We will see Georgia move from 17 to 7 if they can add Jared Curtis. Now, if Oregon adds Jared Curtis, they are going to move into the top 5 at number 4. Oregon has been as high as number 1 in the rankings, but now they sit at number 7 after a couple defections, including Jonas Williams flipping to USC. Now we're going to see if Oregon can get back inside the top 5. Now, I'm going to bring on Pete Nakos. He's our NIL expert. He's sitting next to me. That's Pete. Pete, want to get your gauge on, everybody, we talked with Rusty, we talked with Justin, and nobody brought up NIL, but you and I both know, and they both know, that NIL is a big factor here. What dollar amount is Jared Curtis commanding, the number one quarterback in America?
Well, Josh, in Jared Curtis's recruitment, I would say that NIL has not been the biggest factor. I think the big reason why Georgia is still on the table to this point is because of how close home to it is for Jared, who's in Nashville. But the other thing here too is that as a 5-star recruit, Jared's gonna probably make over $1 million as a freshman at Oregon as a freshman. Sources continue to tell on 3. But if he goes to Georgia, I would expect that first year plan to be under $1 million.
Wow. So, when you say NIL's not a huge factor, he's getting taken care of.
Yeah.
What the market should pay a number one quarterback.
Right.
But he's not driving the price.
No, I wouldn't say he's driving the price. And the other thing too is we keep hearing about the Kirby discount, the Georgia discount. Kirby Smart really took advantage of that in the 2025 cycle. And I think we're going to see it again here with Georgia in the mix for so many 5-star recruits. And if Jared Curtis does pick the Bulldogs, and we're going to find out here shortly.
Yeah.
I think that it's a sign that playing close to home, sticking with Georgia, who he decommitted from in the past, won out in the recruitment and maybe not the biggest dollar amount. All that said, right, we love to peg Oregon as the big spenders in NIL because of the Nike and Phil Knight tie. Dan Lanning has gone all out to make Jared Curtis feel at home, miles and miles away from Nashville. And that shouldn't be overlooked at all in this recruitment.
Yeah. And I've always had a theory here, because Dan Lanning and Kirby Smart are friends on and off. Oh, are we going? Okay, here we go. We're going to go live. Jared Curtis at the desk.
So much out to me during the process. With that being said, I'm grateful and I'm good for University of Georgia.
All right, at this time, this is a short video that's going out right now over social media. Jared Curtis, 52 touchdowns on the year. Number one quarterback, Jared Curtis. He works really hard. This kid really works as hard as anybody ever. And put those two things together, and it's really special. He has a very good understanding of football. He has a good IQ. It's a natural gift. He's a natural thrower of football.
Jared Curtis, National Christian quarterback. This season comes Mr. Football Award winner. Total of 6 touchdowns today. Number 2, Jared Curtis. I'm thankful. I'm ready. I'll see y'all next.
For allowing us to share this moment. At this time, we're going to ask some patience. I think we'll get some pictures made, certainly with family and with coaches and teammates that want to be part of that. And then I know there's a lot of media here that like to ask questions. We'll get to you guys in a minute if you don't mind being patient with that. You're welcome to leave. Thanks for being a part of this, or you can stick around. It's up to you guys. So thanks again. At this time, we need to get some pictures for National Christian of the family. I think first, right? Okay, so thanks a lot. You guys are welcome to stick around, or you can take off, and then the media guys will get to you in just a minute.
All right, there it is. Jared Curtis is a dog. Let's hear it. UGA fans in the chat, how are we feeling? And momentarily, we're going to bring in Rusty Mansell from Dawgs HQ here to talk about this. Absolutely huge pickup for the Dogs. I wasn't sure if Jared Curtis was going to go back. Ultimately, Rusty, what do you think won it for UGA here?
I can't go back enough on Mike Bobo in relationship with his family and you know, the way that was handled, that decommitment and the way it's went since then. There's no points for second place. And I think that Pete said a lot about Oregon and Dan Lanning, and certainly they went all in on this kid. And
Right.
This is an elite player. This is an elite quarterback. I've been doing this for 17 years. I went to Nashville last October to watch him myself. And I'm telling you, one of the top 2 or 3 arms I've ever seen in my life, in my time frame. The ball is just so live out of his hand. And, you know, with Mike Bobo and the confidence his family had with him, I think Jared Curtis, you know, location's great too, Athens. But he did do credit to Jared Curtis. He did his due diligence. This kid went to Oregon 3 times. He's been to Athens a bunch of times. At the end of the day, Georgia stayed consistent. Georgia was on him a long time. And ultimately, it paid off today with a massive deal there for Kirby Smart, Mike Bobo, and their staff. This is a huge deal because now this is a lot of momentum with their class. You see Georgia not in the top 10 right now. I think we've come to learn with Kirby Smart not to worry about where you are in May and where you're going to be in December.
Right. And after this commitment, Georgia moves up to number 7. So inside the top 10, they were at 17
already.
Rusty. And I know, you know, we both know. Oh, look, we already got it updated. And Georgia bumps Oregon to number 8. So it was Oregon sitting at 7. Now you got Georgia in the top 10 at 7, Oregon at 8. That's just the way the cookie crumbles today. Oregon had a chance to go up to number 4. Instead, they slide down 1 spot. Rusty, on three's Charles Power had a player comp of Matthew Stafford for Jared Curtis. Yep. Do you like that? Yep. Who do you compare him to? Do you think he is a Matthew Stafford comparison?
I hate to always put stuff like that. You're talking about a Super Bowl winner. You're talking about a guy that was number 1 draft pick. But, you know, when you see him in person, you know, he's 6'3", he's 220 pounds. I mean, this is a big ass kid now, and he's got a very live arm. I don't know anybody else you could really compare him to than Matt Stafford. If you've seen Matt Stafford in person, he's so big and just a thick human. You know what I mean? I don't know what to say. And you look at Jared Curtis, he's well put together. He's not a statue in the pocket. That was the one thing I wanted to see at practice was, can this guy move around? You know, is he just a pocket passer that can't move? And I came away impressed that, you know, he's a little more twitchy than I thought. But I think Matt Stafford, that's the comparison. That's the one. Obviously, now he's going to get that with Georgia and Mike Bobo with the relationship there. I'd be interested to see how many times that Jared Curtis has talked to Matt Stafford, because if you don't think Matt Stafford got involved with that at some point, I would be very shocked if that conversation has never taken place.
Wow, that's interesting. I did not think that Matthew Stafford would be recruiting Jared Curtis, but
hey, let me tell you something. Matt Stafford keeps up with Georgia. He is a dog for sure. 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the possibility if he's an early enrollee, which I'm not sure. Well, no, actually he told me he was going to be an early enrollee. What's the possibility of him playing early?
It's according to how this goes. This is a very interesting time at Georgia. You know, listen, everybody thinks Gunnar Stockton's that guy, and can Gunnar Stockton go out and have a really good year? And he's got time left on his you know, in Athens as well. Does he have a great year and leave? Ryan Puglisi is a guy that was super highly recruited. This is another guy. I think this, Josh, I'm very comfortable in saying this. If you come to Georgia, you know you're going to battle. You know you're going to have a little more difficult path probably to that role. I would imagine Jared Curtis's goal is to get here, learn as much of the playbook, and see how things unfold. But this is not the type of player you want to sit around for a couple of years. I mean, he's going to have his opportunity. I think what Gunnar Stockton does this fall is going to dictate a lot of that. And where are we in December with this, with Georgia? But you don't bring Jared Curtis. This is not a type of kid you bring in to say, okay, we're going to sit you for 3 years. You're going to have an opportunity sooner than later. But I would imagine Jared Curtis understands the first thing he's got to do is get to college, learn the playbook, and adjust to college life at Georgia.
Okay, so Georgia fans want to know. They're asking me in the chat right now as we speak. By the way, if you're in the chat, subscribe to the channel. They're asking me right now, is Jared Curtis going to be a vocal recruiter? Is Jared Curtis going to reel in the big fish, Jackson Cantwell, to come play left tackle for him?
You know what's interesting? Matt Stafford was not that type of guy. Matt Stafford, you know, in fact, his roommate was Chris Durham. They didn't even know each other when they got to Georgia. He was like, "Oh, hey, nice to meet you, wide receiver." You know what I mean? Like, but I think Jared Curtis is a guy that's going to take control. He's going to be working DMs. He's going to be working kids. It's different day and age now at this point in 2025 in this class for these kids, 2026. I think Jared Curtis is going to be very active. I guarantee you this. The two people that knew where he was going today was Hayes Fawcett and Jackson Cantwell. So we'll see where it goes. That's another 5-star, decision coming up really soon on the 13th with this. But Jared Curtis, I'm comfortable in saying I know this will be a guy that will be very vocally and actively recruiting other players to join him in his class at Georgia.
All right. Well, actually, Jackson Cantwell was in our chat messaging. So Jackson, if you're still in the chat, let us know where you think you're going to end up.
We can go 2 for 1 right here. We can knock it out today if you want to do that. So that's a young man.
Jackson, look, we got 1,000 people here. If you want to announce your commitment in our chat right now, feel free.
It's a young man at Georgia. This is number 1 lineman in the country as well. Number 1 tackle prospect in America on 3. Loves him. Charles Power loves him, has loved him for a long time. And when you look at a kid like that, super strong, very highly recruited. Look, Georgia and Oregon, another battle here could be. There's some other schools involved with this, but I do think that this is a guy that knew where Jared Curtis was going today. And this is also a guy that is another major target for Georgia with a decision coming soon. And he wants to let it ride today, we can do 2 for 1 right here.
We can all day. All right, Rusty Mansell, Dawgs HQ. The dogs are barking on the message board. Go tend to that. We will talk to you soon, my man.
Thanks, Josh.
All right, I appreciate you. All right, let's take a look at these rankings one more time. We were talking about it a little bit before Rusty came on. Going to bring on J.D. Pickell here in a minute, but look at Georgia surging into the top 10. We knew it was only a matter of time until we saw them break that top 10, but here they are sitting at number 7. Oregon drops 1 spot to let Georgia in. Then you got Clemson and Penn State rounding out that top 10. But remember, at one point, Oregon was sitting in the number 1 spot. They were leading the way. Then Oregon kind of fell off. I'm just going to say it. Oregon kind of fell off in the last month. It ain't over for the Ducks, but this one hurt because when Jonas Williams flipped to USC, Duck fans felt this was a part of a bigger process. Jonas Williams needed to make room for number 1 QB Jared Curtis, but in the end, that's just not how it went. Jared Curtis is now a dog. Speaking of dogs, I got one next to me, to my right. JD Pickell on 3 page, not on 3 recruits, just on 3 page. JD, what is it? What's the feeling in Dog Nation after landing the number 1 quarterback?
Yeah, man, I think the first thought that comes to mind is there was a lot of speculation, maybe overreaction from the college football public after they dropped to Notre Dame and the college football playoff. We're all like, NIL this, portal that, the playoff expanding is hurting Kirby Smart. And they get the commitment from the top quarterback in America, not once, but twice. Yeah. So to me, what I'm seeing here is like that Georgia logo still holds a lot of weight. If you want to go play on Sundays, you still go to Georgia. And I get excited, Josh, about the difference maker they have now at quarterback. Like we've seen in this 12-team playoff era,
right?
You can't go win with Jacob Coker. And I love Jacob Coker, but you got to have a Jared Curtis to go get it done. And they have that now for the future.
Yeah. And kind of like you said, they landed the number 1 quarterback, not once, but twice. That equal national championships. They hope so, not once, but twice. And the quarterback play from those national championship games, even, in Stetson Bennett, there was a lot of people undervaluing Stetson Bennett at the time. Sure. But I think now when we look back at it, he was straight up making plays at the quarterback position. And that's what they need from Jared Curtis.
And they had some pass catchers for him too. I don't know if you feel this way, but it seems like Georgia has made an effort to continue to be more potent offensively and have that extra gear through the air. And when they were really unstoppable was when they had McConkey, Bowers, Stetson. You had that year where Carson Beck and Bowers and McConkey overlapped for a year, but it was Carson Beck's first year and they get dinged up down the stretch. Like if you have a real deal high-powered offense to go with the Kirby Smart defense, you're not going to lose a lot of games. And the games that you do lose are probably going to be early December, late January. Like you're always going to be in the mix. And so with what they did this last cycle at receiver, what they're doing right now, grabbing the top quarterback in America, vibes are once again immaculate in Athens, as you would expect.
Yeah. And quarterbacks are coming off the board. Now we got Jared Curtis off, Faison Brandon at number 2. Faison Brandon's committed to Tennessee. So you got 1 and 2 SEC bound. Yeah, we don't have a Georgia logo up there for Jared Curtis, but you guys can imagine what that G would look like next to Jared Curtis's name. We got Faison Brandon. Keyshawn Henderson is a 5-star committed to Houston. Last year at this time, SMU had a 5-star committed. His name was Keelan Russell. He ended up at Alabama. Keyshawn Henderson hanging tight to that Houston. Oh, look at that. The G appeared.
How about that?
How about that?
Bada bing,
That is,
bada boom.
I don't know if that's movie magic or what, but that G is now next to Jared Curtis's name. Diabell at Texas. Landon Duckworth, I think that one's going to heat up. Ryder Lyons, I think he's going to end up at USC, but he's going to be more of a 2027 recruit because he's taking a mission and he will return to Southern California after a year to come play football for the Trojans. Landon Duckworth was a one-time South Carolina commitment. He's back on the board. All the focus turns to him right now. And of course, Bo Bentley, one-time Oklahoma commitment. Is it going to be LSU? I mean, Georgia was in the running for Bo Bentley as well, but now that they got Jared Curtis, they're going to be out of the running. Florida State needs a quarterback. They could lay in. We're going to see what happens, but they're coming off the board at a rapid pace. No surprise, right? We see all these SEC logos up here.
Yeah, I mean, it feels a lot like the table setting of Hayes Fawcett's season, doesn't it? Like, it feels like this is the hard launch, if you will, into that. And I think when we talk about the recruiting calendar, you know this better than anybody, Josh, but like July is when things really get hot and heavy. June when things get hot and heavy. And so for these quarterbacks to be finding their spots earlier on in the cycle to where if I want to go play at Georgia, I'm considering Georgia from a pass catcher, I know that when I get there is a quarterback that can deliver me the football. Same thing at Tennessee, same thing at a place like USC, Michigan, the Valley getting activated with Arizona State. So you mentioned the SEC part of it. I'm curious to see how active those other schools that are still maybe looking to add a quarterback in this cycle get now with these dominoes starting to fall into place.
Yeah, and where does Oregon fit in here? Because at number 8, you got Jonas Williams. He was committed to Oregon for the long haul, we thought, until he flipped to USC. And as I've said, Oregon fans thought this was they thought there was a bigger picture here. They said Jonas Williams got to leave so we can make room for Jared Curtis. But now we see Oregon out there. I mean, Will Stein, Dan Lanning, they're not going to sit long without a top arm.
No, you imagine they won't. And on top of that, too, we've seen Oregon now consistently go to the transfer portal, go out a top guy, and then he ends up being a Heisman finalist from Dylan Gabriel to Bo Nix. Now Dante Moore going to be third in line to try to keep that New York City streak alive. If they don't land someone in the 26th cycle that Oregon fans are enormously excited about, doesn't mean that they're going to be without a top quarterback when it's time for them to actually have a 2026 arm hit the field.
How do you feel about the quarterback rooms at Oregon, at Georgia? Who do you give the edge to right now without a high school quarterback added?
Sure. I mean, right now it's hard to not give the edge to what Oregon has because it feels like there's more known commodities or there's maybe a higher talent level. And I love Gunnar Stockton. I think Gunnar Stockton is actually going to be pretty awesome this year for Georgia. But talk about Dante Moore, talk about Austin Novosad at Oregon. They're going to be in good shape. I think it's also interesting to note both these offenses ask different things of their quarterbacks. Like Oregon, we talked about it before on your show. They're not asking you to make all these NFL throws. It's read the defense, get the ball out fast, let Evan Stewart work. For Georgia, it's going to be a lot more, process and then push the ball downfield to maximize what that run game does for you.
Do you like the Jared Curtis fit in a Mike Bobo offense when a Mike Bobo offense has what it needs?
I love it. And the reason being, remember, you mentioned Stetson Bennett in that 2022 season. What I think is really underrated about that offense, Stetson Bennett did so much with his legs. I mean, we saw in the national title game, it felt like, in that first half, that first quarter, makes a couple plays with his feet, and we're looking at the hurting they're putting on TCU. Like they didn't have an answer for it. So to get more specific here, a lot of people dock Mike Bobo for how horizontal he is with his scheme and all the tunnel screens and all that. Having the ability to stretch the defense width-wise, and then also having like the quarterback design run to puncture when they overcommit. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, and here we are. We're going to wait a little bit longer for Jared Curtis. There's a chance that we might get Jared Curtis on camera with us to talk a little bit about his commitment. I'm fired up, man. This was such a roller coaster ride because we had Jared Curtis in this studio. I think it was January, maybe early January. It was January. And Jared Curtis is so innocent, so young, so talented. He came in here very professional, but it was just funny to hear him coming off of his decommitment, like not realizing when he reopened that recruitment, the surge in interest that he was going to get. He told me his phone was blowing up. And one of the funny things is, I guess I'll just say this. He said that every school that contacted him asked him now, because remember, he decommitted last season, last fall.
Sure.
there's like 6 or 7, 8 weeks until signing day. Every coach that called him asked him if he would reclassify.
Interesting.
And be a part of the 2026 class. Now, I'm not going to say what teams they were, but it was pretty much everybody.
Interesting.
That gives me the indication that coaches feel that Jared Curtis is a guy that's ready to go play. Nashville Christian, whatever, there's a lot of words about his competition. I mean, how do you judge a guy when he's playing at Nashville Christian coming to the SEC? How do you know if he's ready?
That's a question for Charles.
That's why they
Powell
get paid the big bucks. Huh?
Exactly. But I mean, one thing that sticks out to me, Josh, we had his measurables up there, 6'4", 225. Like, I don't know exactly the precise body composition and all that. I think every player benefits from a strength program when they get to college. But if you're 6'4", 225, like, you're not taking a lot of hits where that's going to impact you different than if you're like 6'4", 205. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, we see him moving around here, throwing the football. He is a big dude, and he's not working out in a college weight room. I mean, he's barely, this is small town high school. He's getting that work in no matter what. Jared Curtis heading to Georgia, if you're just tuning in. Jared Curtis is a dog. Now, there it is, the red Corvette. That's exactly what I wanted to talk about. I thought when I saw this, I was like, dog. He's a dog.
The red paint on that thing. What? Talk me through that.
Jared Curtis purchased a 6-figure car. I think this was for his parent, one of them. And I just can't imagine you're dropping 6 figs on a car that's Bulldog red. Yeah. And you're heading to Oregon. Like, I just can't. That just doesn't make sense. There was a lot of people in the mentions, in the comment section, in the chat, saying you're wrong. This isn't a sign. He's a duck. And, I thought, okay, going to wrap it in Oregon Duck colors or something.
Sure, you go yellow there maybe.
Right. Like, if you're let's call Jared Curtis 18 years old, maybe he's 19 at this point, probably more like 18. But if you're buying, I don't even know how to say this, because if we were 18 and we had 6 figures to buy our parents a car.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But was this a giveaway?
It feels like when you look at it in reverse, I'm like, oh, of course it was always Georgia. But you're getting a red sports car. Men lie, women lie, sports cars don't lie. But I do think that with how far out it is, there could be some preference to it. I think it's much easier to have a red sports car and drive that around than trying to quantify having a yellow sport. Like, if this was yellow, I would have been like, oh, it's Oregon from the jump.
Right.
With it being red, I feel like having a red sports car is pretty socially acceptable across the board. That's my 2 cents, Josh. That's that's how I'm reading this whole thing. So I don't know if it was a giveaway, but in reverse, I think it fits probably just about right.
Oh man. Yeah. Let's hear from the chat. What did you guys think? Because I thought Jared Curtis really played his recruitment close to the vest. I mean, even though he came out and said Oregon was his leader at one point, he did a couple things. Do you feel like the Corvette was the giveaway? I mean, I truly, I'm not just saying this for shock value, but I really did think that the red Corvette, I was just like, wow.
Yeah. I wonder too how many times throughout a commitment process you like go back and forth internally. Like, I wonder if at that point he gets the Corvette and it's like, this guy's going to be a dog. He's feeling like a dog. And then we have Steve Wiltfong say, I believe it was yesterday or this morning on Andy and Ari on 3, he made 2 commitment videos. Like, it legitimately could have been, he was ready to roll with either school. So it sounds like it went pretty close to the wire to where I guess you can get a car's coat of paint color changed, but you got 2 commitment videos. That tells me you are very much so between 2 schools.
Yeah, we're going to get Jared Curtis here in a minute. He's getting set up with Steve Wiltfong. We got Jared Curtis.
How about it?
Oh, we're getting the shot right. Look at this. We got Jared Curtis, Steve Wiltfong.
That's all of 6'4".
We're gonna get the shot right here in a second. But yeah, I mean, Steve's 5'10", 5'11". Steve's not 5'4", but Jared Curtis certainly making him look a little bit shorter.
I mean, Steve's the kind of guy you throw the ball to in the paint and let him work. So to see Jared Curtis towering like that tells me a 6'4" measurement.
Got the Georgia throwback jersey or the throwback on. I love it. All right, let's go to. Are you guys ready? Let's go.
Steve Wiltfong out here at Nashville Christian High with new Georgia commit 5-star Jared Curtis. Jared, congratulations. In the end, what made the Bulldogs right for you?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'd say the relationship with Coach Bobo and Coach Smart and the rest of their coaching staff, and just getting to know all of them every time I've been up there, and it gets better and better each time.
Well, obviously, when you were talking to the mass media, you said that you sent a text message to your family last night to wear Georgia gear here today. What was the reaction from your family when you told them to do that?
My dad and sister, of course, were very excited. My mom, she broke into tears. She was she's loved Georgia all the way, so she's very excited for me.
And you obviously had been committed to Georgia once. Your recruitment comes full circle. What are your favorite things about the Bulldogs?
I'd say my favorite thing is probably the relationship I have with all the coaches and just the family atmosphere each time I go up there, and just getting up there and getting to know them better and better each time.
Why do you think you can be so successful there under Coach Smart and Coach Bobo?
I feel like they've shown their success all around the past couple of years, and they have great players all around you, and you just got to go up there and work for it.
Obviously, the quarterback, the face of the class. Now it's time to put on your recruiting cap. You've had some conversations with Jackson Cantwell. You said earlier, how are those going?
I hope they're going good. I hope we can land him. Not sure what he's thinking right now, but I hope we can get it done.
Right now, I like Georgia's chances for Jackson Cantwell going into his visit this weekend. Are you going to be in Athens this weekend helping recruit him?
Yes, sir. I might. I didn't even know, but I'm going. Yes, sir.
He's there. Jared Curtis will be back in Athens this weekend. Who else have you been talking to about Georgia right now?
I haven't yet because I haven't I haven't told anyone yet. So now starting tonight, I'm going to start.
Do you have a pre-existing relationship with guys like Vance Spafford, though?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I've talked to him a couple of times. I was talking to him as well at the Future 50 at IMG this past summer, and just getting a relationship with him and a couple other guys there. So I'm excited to see that.
When you told Coach Smart and Coach Bobo you were coming before this press conference, how did that go down, and what was their reaction?
I told Coach Bobo straight up, and he was very excited. And then he told me to call and mess with Coach Smart, so I did. And he got real quiet when I started messing with him, but then when I broke it to him, he got really excited. So that was exciting.
Jared, how much back and forth was there between Georgia and Oregon since you reopened your process in the fall?
There was a ton. I love both schools, and I'm so thankful for both coaching staffs for doing everything they've done for me, and taking the time out of their day to call me and all those things. And but it was really close, and I'm thankful for both.
Last thing from us here, anything else that makes Georgia a special place outside of the football program that you fell in love with regarding your commitment?
I feel repetitive about the relationship with coaches. That's just the biggest thing for me.
Away from football.
Oh, away from football.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, sir. I feel like obviously it's a little bit closer than Oregon from home, so that played a factor. But so that's probably one of the biggest factors besides football.
Well, that's Jared Curtis, top-ranked quarterback in the country per On3. He is now committed to the Georgia Bulldogs. Back to you, Josh.
Wow. Great interview. Thank you, Steve. That was really cool.
That's good
we
stuff.
got to hear from Jared Curtis right after he committed. You got to be happy for him. And what did you say while he was talking?
You got some baller to him, man. You got the graphic tee. You got the tats on the non-throwing arm. So you're strictly buckets on one side. You got tats on the other. You got the earring. You got like a fresh cut going on.
Yeah.
I'll just say this. I like that, my quarterback. I like a little extra swag to the gunslinger.
Yeah, a little broccoli up top, nice tight fade down low. I mean, how else were you?
I'm here for it, man.
Yeah.
I want my quarterback to have a little bit extra swag to him. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna be the quarterback for the Georgia Bulldogs, man. Let's look like it. I'm here for that.
Absolutely. What a day for the Dogs. Here are their top commitments as it stands right now. These guys are heading to Athens with Jared Curtis leading the way. Now, it was interesting to hear that he's going to recruit. I always love to hear whether, because there are some quarterbacks, and hey, not everybody's cut out for this, but there are some quarterbacks that are very vocal recruiters. I think that we see it a little bit more in the social media age, in the NIL era. We see these vocal recruiters a little bit more. And Jared Curtis, that was a big scoop right there by Steve Wiltfong, going to be in Athens to hang out with Jackson Cantwell, who Jackson Cantwell was hanging out in our chat. Now he's going to be hanging out with Jared Curtis in Athens. I don't know, man. It could be another Oregon-Georgia battle for Jackson Cantwell, the number one offensive tackle in America, the number one quarterback, just commits. I had a great time hanging out with you guys. We're going to do this a lot for these commitments, so smash that subscribe button. Go out to Steve Wiltfong. Steve, you've been on the ground. Before we get out of here, what was the energy like in the building when Jared Curtis picked the Dogs?
Oh, well, obviously super excited. Now the family knew, so they got the message from Jared last night in the family group text that he was going to commit to Georgia. And as you heard our interview earlier in the show, his mom started to cry. So a lot of excitement around him staying closer to home. He's got a brand new little so he's got a lot of support here in Nashville, and it'll be easier for them to get to Athens and watch Jared play his college football for Kirby Smart and company.
Now, Jared, you had some good scoop there. Jared going to be in Athens this weekend with Jackson Cantwell. Jackson Cantwell was in our chat watching the live commitment of Curtis to the Dawgs. Set us up. I mean, what's this Jackson Cantwell recruitment looking like when we're less than 2 weeks from his decision?
Well, as you guys know, I have Georgia predicted right now on the On3 RPM for Jackson Cantwell ahead of his visit to Georgia this weekend. And you just say, Jared Curtis said he didn't even know that he was going to be there, but he will be there in Athens to help this Georgia coaching staff recruit this franchise left tackle target to the Bulldogs. I like where Georgia stands. I think it's the program he's always wanted to play at. His relationship with Coach Searles is second to none. The way that Georgia develops the offensive line, the way their football team competes at the highest level year in and year out. And then look, you're not winning these recruiting battles if you're not checking some boxes from an infrastructure NIL standpoint. And I think Georgia has really upped their game in this 2026 cycle. Paid off today with quarterback Jared Curtis. Jackson Cantwell, you're not in these races if you don't have that infrastructure in order as well. The combination of it all, I like where Georgia stands as they battle Miami and Oregon for Jackson Cantwell moving forward.
Great stuff from the location of the commitment. Steve, one more question before you get out of here. What's next for Oregon? We had Duck fans hoping today that it was going to come full circle and Jared Curtis was going to replace Jonas Williams, who flipped to USC. But now, where does Oregon turn for a quarterback?
Well, Josh, a few minutes ago, I logged an On3 RPM in favor of Oregon for Ryder Lyons, 5-star quarterback for the On3 industry, number 10 prospect overall. I got some intel over the last couple of days that says that BYU and Oregon have moved into the top 2. And I like where the Ducks stand right now going into the summer, going into the wave of visits. Offensive coordinator Will Stein recruiting Ryder Lyons back to his freshman year, similar to Georgia. Kirby Smart, Mike Bobo and company were one of the first programs to really start recruiting Jared Curtis his 9th grade year. The same can be said about Oregon and Ryder Lyons. And right now, my On3 RPM reads Oregon. I'm certainly not sleeping on BYU like we did not sleep on Oregon in this recruitment for Jared Curtis. But Oregon's been all in for Ryder Lyons. They obviously turned it up for Jared Curtis here in the fall when he expressed high interest in them following his decommitment from Georgia. But they've always been on the gas for Ryder Lyons. I like where that stands right now, and the On3 RPM reflects it.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate your work today. Talk to you soon. All right, there it is. It kind of feels like signing day a little bit, right? Like
little record scratch moment there from Steve Wiltfong.
Yeah,
Little,
a lot of news.
Ryder Lyons are
like, hey, by the way, I did a prediction for a 5-star quarterback, like as you guys were bringing me in. So that was really cool. You guys are here. Hit that subscribe button. We're hanging out all recruiting season, doing these lives, doing commitments. We hope to see you here. Hit the subscribe button to the On3 Recruit channel. We will be back